Well, let's turn our attention to Sudan now, where the conflict, which broke out in April last year, has created a deepening humanitarian crisis. The UN is appealing for just over $4 billion to fund humanitarian operations in Sudan and neighbouring countries hosting refugees. Well, more than 9 million people have been displaced by the conflict between rival military leaders, which began last year. UN aid agencies have described a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, with half the population, at least 25 million people, in urgent need of aid. Well, let's speak now to Mamadou Balde, who's in the Regional Refugee Coordinator for Sudan at the United Nations Refugee Agency. Thanks for joining us here on BBC News. Mamadou, let me ask you first of all to update me. I know you've been to the region. To talk to me a little bit about what you saw there when you went with Filippo Grande.
Thank you, Maria, for having me. What we saw are people affected by the conflict. As you said, it is a conflict that has been lasting for the past 10 months, 300 days, and people have lost loved ones, people have lost family members, and people who are women, men who have been working all their lives and secured some properties that have been destroyed. It is also teachers who haven't been paid, civil servants. It's students who no longer go to school for this past academic year. So it's the stories of loss, violence that we heard. We also saw frontliners who are responding to the needs that are acute and that are getting bigger and bigger, and who are doing everything possible to show solidarity. We also heard cry for peace, cry for ceasefire, so that people can resume normal life.
Is there a feeling, Mamadou, that these people, given what's happening in the rest of the world, have been to some degree forgotten by many around the world?
Absolutely. Feeling of being forgotten, feeling of being neglected by the international community for greater ask about peace, ceasefire, as well as support, because this is what is happening within Sudan. In addition to what is happening within Sudan, close to 9 million people who are affected internally, externally, what you see are 1.5 million people who have crossed international borders, received in Chad, in Egypt, in South Sudan, in Ethiopia, in Central African Republic, and more who are moving beyond these countries. And where they go, governments have been very generous, have been opening their borders, but the needs in relation to food, water, protection, prevention and response to gender-based violence. For example, in Chad, 80% of the refugees are women and children. When they come to these areas, they need the most basic support to have access to water, to be relocated out of the border areas so that security is being ensured. So the needs are many, and people do tell us wherever I go, inside Sudan, outside Sudan, about that feeling of being neglected, that feeling of not being recognized enough, and they have been very generous in the past, including toward refugees.
Okay, well, Mamadou.